News Special Report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good morning, I'm David Muir, and now we go right to the breaking news that came in overnight. Britain voting to leave the European Union, and then UK Prime Minister David Cameron surprising everyone, suddenly stepping down. Global markets across the world have been in a free fall, and there are fears the economy right here at home will follow suit. Wall Street getting ready to open. I want to bring in our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, outside the stock exchange as we hear those bells toll right now. A lot of worries about what we'll see today, Rebecca.
That's right, David. And this move, the vote to leave the EU, is what caught so many veteran traders here on Wall Street by surprise. A number of them told me that right up until the last minute last night, they mostly believed that Britain would stay in the European Union, which is why we're seeing this precipitous sell-off on Wall Street today because of the shock, because of the surprise. And now there's a fear about the domino effect that comes from all of this. The fact that Britain has left, will that incentivize other countries to start leaving the European Union? And the major question now on Wall Street's mind is, what does that ripple effect mean? What is the uncharted territory going to look like now that we've entered into a completely new and different world? Also, the world here at home, the United States, that most immediate impact. People will likely see this today in their 401ks, in their IRAs. As you're watching the Dow, as it's opening up, you do see the Dow falling and the S&P 500 falling as well. You likely will see that impact in your 401k. If things were to hold where they are right now and close out the day where they are right now, the average 401k retirement savings account in this country would lose about $2,700. But the longer term question is really, what does this mean for the world's economy? If the European Union starts to slow down, that would not be insignificant. That could spill over here to the United States. There were a number of companies here in the United States that have warned about the impact that this move would have on their business. Caterpillar has operations in Britain. Ford has operations there. A number of multinational companies, names that we're very familiar with here in the United States, have operations in Europe, in Britain, and this could have a lasting impact on their business. Also, the banks have major operations in Europe. London is a major financial center for the entire world. That also adds to some of the uncertainty and the uncharted territory we're entering here. Jamie Dimon, for example, the CEO of JP Morgan, out this morning with an email to his employees saying that you could see this cost employees and jobs overseas in the United Kingdom in the long term, David.
All right, Rebecca Jarvis outside the stock exchange there on Wall Street. As we look at the screen there, down 458 points. We've watched this a slow and steady drop since the market opened, now up to 462 points. Rebecca's going to stay with us as we watch this. I do want to bring in our chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, this morning. And Terry, you've been on this all night, obviously well ahead of us there in London, your time. A lot of the foundation of this is what we're seeing here in the presidential campaign here in the U.S. There were fears in the UK about immigration, about the economy, fears about terror, and a lot of that driving Donald Trump's campaign. And he happens to be in Scotland to open that golf course and finding himself at the center of a global headline this morning.
He does, David. He's got good timing for his cause, which is the same cause, as you point out, that drove the stunning result here in Britain. This was a revolution in many ways of people who aren't participating in all of the market maneuverings that Rebecca just described for us, people who essentially got left behind, left out by the globalizing project of the last 20 years, and they are angry. Immigration, a huge concern. When Europe widened the European Union, when countries like Poland and Romania and other low-wage countries came in, people from those countries had a right to get a job here. They could move here and get a job. They had a right. As an American, I need a work visa, and they aren't that easy to come by. And so there was an enormous tide of new low-wage workers, and that disrupted towns and cities and a lot of labor markets. Then you have the pressure of the migrants and refugees from Middle East that the European Union has done such a bad job handling, and that was a tinderbox. This referendum lit that on fire in just the same way, in many ways, that Donald Trump has ridden the same issue of immigration and concerns about it in the United States, into how it's changed the economy and many people believe changing the culture of the country That was one of the arguments here. It is very, very parallel. The question here now, though, is what can the next Britain, which will be a Britain out of the European Union, do to help those people? And after the shock is wearing off here, there's just a great deal of uncertainty around that and pretty much everything else.
Another one of the fascinating points is that going into this vote in Britain, it was nearly tied, which is what we're seeing here in America in some of the battlegrounds, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Trump and Clinton tied. And in the end, though, it wasn't very close. This was a 4-point margin. This passed, this choice to leave the European Union, and it passed easily. And Terry, you were reporting earlier on Good Morning America that the Prime Minister, who has now shocked Britain by stepping down, meeting with the Queen. Any guess as to what that meeting is like, and the fact that there's a political shockwave now being felt too?
You know, that's a great question, David. One of great interest to the people of Britain and the people of the United States. What's the role of the Queen here? There is a formal constitutional role as Prime Minister. David Cameron has to visit with the monarch, with the Queen, to tender his resignation, to inform her that he will be stepping down within a matter of a few months. That's a formality. But there's also the question is, in this turmoil and uncertainty, as the pound crashes, as people's jobs are on the line, and everybody is kind of wondering what's coming next. Well, traditionally, the monarchy, the Queen has been the island of stability, the place that this country can rally around. If you remember, when Princess Diana was killed in Paris and there was the huge outpouring of grief, she finally stepped forward to share that grief, and that calmed the waters here. It may be that she has a role to play going forward, and that even beyond that, the royal family has a role to play. Queen Elizabeth was queen when Britain lost its empire, and she presided over that in a way that tried to keep Britain strong and connected around the world. It may be that her children, Prince Charles in particular, and her grandchildren have a role in helping Britain remain an international and strong country now that it is out of Europe. David?
All right, Terry Moran, who will be on this straight through World News tonight. Terry, thank you. And I have my eyes trained on the number here on the Dow, down about 508 points after being down even further than that. It appears to be leveling out around the 500 mark, which is still a very significant drop on a Friday morning. Let's get right back to Rebecca. Rebecca, you're a student of the markets. For people watching this at home, obviously worried about their 401ks, are we expecting a leveling off, or are we going to see a very tumultuous day ahead? It's about 503 now after being down even further than that. It appears to be coming back at least slightly.
Yes, well, David, the Wall Street veterans I've been talking to expect volatility not only today, but in the days and weeks ahead because of this uncharted territory as they try to wrap their head around how big of an impact this is really going to have on the European Union, on Europe's economy, but also our economy here in the United States. One thing that anyone who's watching this right now should know is that if you were thinking of purchasing a home, but you were worried about where interest rates might be going, if you were thinking about buying a car with a loan or expanding your business with a loan, but were worried about where interest rates might go, that they might be climbing higher, this event essentially seals interest rates lower for the time being, particularly potentially even for the rest of this year. And we've heard from Fed Chair Janet Yellen that she's been watching very, very closely this event in Britain and will continue to monitor it, and that it could have an impact on our economy here. But the big thing for Americans to know is that this will very likely maintain interest rates where they are. We will very likely not see a hike in interest rates as a result of this Brexit. And that will mean that going out getting new loans to purchase a home, to buy a car, to expand your business, or even your credit card, that the rate on those loans will remain where it is right now, David.
That interest rate will remain unchanged because of worries about instability in the economy. That will offer some reassurance for Americans now watching the markets react to this decision in Britain by the people of the UK to pull out of the European Union, down 471 points at this point. We will continue to monitor throughout the day. ABCnews.com. For many of you, we're going to return to regular programming. That's Good Morning America. And I'll see you a bit later for World News Tonight. Until then, I'm David Muir. Good day.